Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a beer, it's time for some Path of Exile discussion, and today is day 6 of teaser season for both the Siege of the Atlas expansion and the Archnemesis League. And today I wanted to bring your attention to the one teaser that we got today, which is one of the more interesting amulets that we've seen in a long time. Really one of the most build-defining uniques that we've seen. This is something that does not fit into any existing builds. However, it's something that could do a lot of really interesting things in the future. So this is Crystallized Omniscience. This at first looks like a stat stacker amulet, but have another look at it and you'll see that it kind of isn't. It's something very, very different. So modifiers to attributes instead apply to Omniscience. Omniscience is a new stat for this item, and it's something that only exists, as far as we know, on this specific item. You get 1% to all elemental resistances per 10 Omniscience. You penetrate 1% of elemental resistances per 10 Omniscience. And then your attribute requirements on items can be satisfied by 23% of Omniscience. Now, that 23% might be a wide roll range, and we don't know yet. There's a lot of speculation that might be something like 15 to 25%. Ultimately, I think that this item is going to be pretty bricked if it doesn't have a high roll here. However, we also don't know for certain that the other two lines are always the same. So this could be a very good roll, or it could be a typical roll, or it could be a poor roll, and we don't know that. And that's going to be very important when it comes to actually assessing how good this item is. But in terms of some of the potential and what it does. So firstly, I speculate, based upon some past precedents, that this is going to convert a modifier like plus 50 dexterity to plus 50 omniscience. Well, that's certain. But a mod like plus 50 to all attributes, I believe will also convert to 50 omniscience. The reason that I don't think that will be triple counted and become 150 is because of some of the precedents that exist with lines of text only apply, where lines of text might appear to apply multiple times on things like anomalous kinetic bolt. Anomalous kinetic bolt has a text, it has a text as its quality bonus that modifiers to cast speed apply to attack speed with this skill at X% effectiveness. And you would think that, at least intuitively I used to think, that a modifier to attack and cast speed would be affected by that, so you would get the attack benefit and you would also get some percentage of the cast benefit. However, that is not the case. That is considered to already apply, and therefore you don't get it modified. And so for that reason, I think that lines that might apply multiple times to Omniscience probably won't. Most importantly, though, this line is going to change things like plus 6% strength will become plus 6% Omniscience. Ultimately, this means that you can equip any type of stat stacker gear and get the benefits of it. It doesn't need to be the right stat that you're stacking. You just need to stack a stat. And that's going to make stat stacking potentially reach higher limits than it has in the past, even though your amulet is being taken up by this slot that provides very little in the way of stats. Now, you get a massive amount of elemental resistances from Crystallized Omniscience. If you can get your highest stat to 1500, then this is going to provide 150 to all elemental resistances. This is pretty much all resist you need on your character or close to it. And as a result, this is truly fantastic. Yeah, 150 to all resist with minus 60. That's enough to put you almost elemental weakness capped. So if you're playing a stat stacker build, this means that you do not need elemental resistances on any of your other gear. Next, you've got this massive penetration of elemental resistances. So that's amazing as well, especially with the sorts of numbers we're going to be talking here, potentially 150% elemental penetration. That is a huge damage multiplier. But, and this is the big caveat for this item, this also turns off all of the traditional stat stacking options that you might have used. So for instance, one of the popular ways to play a stat stacking build is to use wands that have plus 1 to X lightning damage per 10 intelligence on your character. Now those are going to be completely useless when you've got Crystallized Omniscience equipped, because you're not going to have any intelligence to speak of. You are going to need to use traditional elemental damage sources. This could be attacks, this could be spells, and you are going to need to find a way to scale a lot of them. This is going to be quite difficult. Secondly, attribute requirements can be satisfied by 23% of Omniscience. This is going to mean that while you are getting these builds together, This is while you are acquiring gear for them. And we don't know whether you're going to get Crystallized Omniscience late in progression or early. But let's assume that you are able to get Crystallized Omniscience early in progression. Let's just assume that it's a tier 3 unique, drop anywhere. It probably won't be, it's probably going to be a boss drop. But if it were to be available early in progression, or maybe you just already have it when you're starting, you are going to be very limited in what you can equip by this line until you can get a lot of Omniscience together. So you're not going to necessarily be able to equip non-hybrid gear. So pure armor gear you might not be able to use, but you could use armor evasion hybrid gear. That's going to be the case for a little while. Then you'll get more Omniscience on your character and you'll be able to equip all items that don't have unusually augmented stat requirements. And then later in progression, you may be able to equip items even like Mjolnir that have augmented stat requirements. Anyway, this is one of the most interesting items we've seen in a while. I think it will be build empowering, but it will be empowering builds that are not existing in the current Path of Exile meta. It is going to lock you out of traditional stat stacking to use this amulet, and that's something that's quite interesting. It'll be refreshing. It will not be just empowering something that's already good. It will be something entirely new, and it will require very different building. You will need to get a lot of flat damage from somewhere. Something that most stat stacker builds have flat damage coming out of their eyeballs, but they struggle with the elemental penetration. Now you'll be looking at it the other way. The sorts of stats you're going to look for if you were to make an attack build with Crystallized Omniscience will likely be similar to what you might equip on a build that is using Paradoxica to attack. You'll be looking for similar sorts of factors. That's all I got. May your Varlorbs have interesting results, and I will see you around as we keep getting more information dribbled out about the 3.17 release.